What's up, players? Welcome to my round 16 tips. Before we get started, firstly, Jeremy is going to be joining us for probably the tiniest bit of this video. He is a Collingwood supporter, if you can tell by the colour of him. Anywho, let's get into my round 15 tips. I was spot on. Tip Fremantle by 41. They won by bloody 41. I was like, oh my god, this is the week. This is the week. And then Geelong let me down the next night. Not only let me down, but they got smacked. The top four races heating up. I mean, you look at these 6 teams here. 4 of them are going to be tied on 40 points by the end of the round. At least I'm predicting, because let's be real. Respectfully, Adelaide, Hawthorn and Fremantle will beat their opponents this week. And then that leaves Brisbane. So all of them are going to have the same amount of games played with, on the same points, and then Brisbane are only 2 points ahead. And Hawthorn are in a good position because not only do they get a shit ton of good players back, obviously Will Day, a fit Sicily, a fit Scrimshaw, Mackenzie if we decide that, Deere, Lewis, everyone back. But we also have the chance to beat Collingwood, beat Brisbane, beat Adelaide and Adelaide, beat them again by the way, and beat Fremantle. So, some tough games for us, but if we can win these games, we can definitely push high into that top 4. And the top 4 race is nowhere near over. Gold Coast are out of the 8, which is unbelievable. I just realised you can't actually see the ladder that I'm looking at on the side here, so my bad. But anyways, yep, then I don't know how that's happened. Carlton fans, I feel so bad for you. How are you losing to North Melbourne? You literally get given the easiest fixture and you still can't do anything. Port Adelaide let me down. Sydney are looking real good. Completely forgot that Papley and Errol Gulden were back. At the time of making that video, I did not check any lists, and I still wasn't sure on the return of either of those players, but Sydney are looking alright. Collingwood expected to win. GWS, what a game this was. They did pick up the win and they batter Gold Coast out of the top 8. That's 3 straight losses, I believe, for the Suns now. And then the Doggies get the job done easily over Richmond, as everyone thought they would. They are very good at battering the bad teams, but when it comes to versing contenders, they're one of the worst, the Dogs. To put that in perspective, Richmond have beaten the same amount of top 8 teams as the Dogs. Or, well, actually, Gold Coast aren't in the top 8 anymore, so technically that is a lie. But anyway, Thursday night, Port Adelaide at Adelaide Oval taking on Carlton. Now, the finals race is really pushing away. You've got 9th place on 32, and then you've got Carlton in 10th place on 24 points. It's really pulling away now, so whoever loses this game is 100% season done. If you win, your season's slightly alive, but with 9 games basically remaining, you've got to win 8 of them. You have to win 8 of them if you're only on 6 wins. Actually, no, 8 of them you will have to win 8, 100%. Especially looking as the top 8 is really pulling away, so I can't see it being any less than 14 wins. Anyways, Port Adelaide did let me down last week when I tipped them, but I'm going to tip them here. I can't tip Carlton, and I don't trust them to bounce back, They didn't bounce back after losing to Richmond, disappointingly, and I don't think they'll bounce back here. So, I'm going to go Carlton, despite them being 10th this season. That does not reflect how bad they've been. Michael Voss needs to go. The players need to have a hard look at themselves as well, of course. But Port Adelaide, they stand a chance. I do believe they can make a late push, as well as Sydney. I think they're the 2 likely that are on 24 points at the moment that can actually make a realistic shout for making the top 8. I'm going to go Port Adelaide to win this by 17 points. I just trust them a little bit more than the Blues. And I don't think Port Adelaide are finished in season 2025, and I really hope they go into UTAS with a shit ton of wins in a row, just so we can end their finals hope. That will be a dream. Anyways, that's my tip. Sydney taking on the Dogs at the SCG. Both teams having iffy form. They've won their last 2, and then they both lost the 2 before that. And again, Sydney have just been well off at this season. Of course, Errol Gulden and Tom Papley will change a lot, as Sam Darcy does with the Dogs. But, even with that, the Dogs just can't beat anyone good. I mean, they've beaten GWS, but other than that, they've lost to every single other team in the side of the top 8. They're just not looking good at the moment. Well, they're looking terrific, I should say, but in terms of actually beating decent quality sides, and Sydney at the SCG are a decent quality side, despite, again, they haven't really shown that this season. But, they've won their last 2. They got the bounce back as expected against Richmond, and then, won against Port at Adelaide Oval, and they could have won by a hell of a lot more. It's just that forward line right now that kind of just needs to pick up a little bit. But they've got most of their team back. I really think, and I'm going to tip the upset here and go against most people, I'm going to tip Sydney. I just feel like at the SCG, your finals chances are just alive. This is the team that can make a late comeback into the season. They've done it before. You know, they started 0-6 in 2017, made the 8. They're the team that can do it. They've got everyone back now. I feel like Dean Cox has adjusted a little bit better, and this is the game that will determine, 3 wins in a row, will be huge for them. Will be absolutely monumental for their season, the Swans. I'll just have a look who they have to play in the next few weeks, because if they're a realistic chance, then absolutely they'll push 100% harder, because they did have a tough run. I mean, they had to verse Hawthorn, Brisbane and Freo, all teams in the top 6, and then Collingwood in their first 5 weeks of the season, which is unbelievable. Then they had Port, Gold Coast, GWS. They've had a tough run, and they've had Adelaide already. They've had Port twice already. So, they have Freo at the SCG, that'll be tough, but then St Kilda and North are both winnable games. GWS will be tough. They've still got a pretty tough run, actually, Sydney. Essendon will be a win. Brisbane at the Gabba, Geelong at the SCG. They could cause an upset, and then West Coast will be a win. So it's still relatively 50-50, to be fair. But, I think they're the team to do it. I'm going to go Sydney by just a goal in this one. This will either be the smartest tip of the round or absolutely just stupid, and the Dogs just floor all over them, just like Adelaide did. So yeah, I'm backing Sydney, because there's got to be an upset somewhere in the round, right? There's got to be, or somewhat of an upset. And I feel like this one will be the one, just considering the Bulldogs are very shaky against, bigger sides. But we'll have to see how this one goes, eh? Gold Coast take on Melbourne. Now Gold Coast are out of the 8. They are out of the 8. Unbelievable. They've lost their last 3. They lost to Fremantle, Geelong, GWS, back. All top contenders. And it just shows that, you can look very good in the top 4, but once you start playing some good sides, just like the Dogs, you won't be doing much. For people that want to criticise Hawthorn for not beating good sides, I mean, it's just not true. You look at that top 8, they're 3-3 against teams in the top 8. They beat Adelaide, they beat the Dogs, they beat GWS, and they lost, obviously, the top 3, Geelong, Brisbane and Collingwood, which most teams here have lost to as well. I mean, Collingwood have literally only lost 2 games. So, that's that. So, you look at teams like the Dogs, I think they've beaten one team, which was GWS in this top 8. GWS have beaten a few. Actually, I think they've only beaten one themselves. They beat Collingwood and they beat Geelong, so they've beaten 2. Other than that, they lost to Adelaide. Oh no, they beat Brisbane as well, so they've also won 3 and lost 3, I believe. But anyway, Melbourne just not looking very good. They were looking alright. They lost their first 5, won 5 of their next 6, but now they've gone back to losing their last 3 to St Kilda. Collingwood, they put up a terrific performance, and then Melbourne, and then Port Adelaide. Then of course they had the bye, but at this stadium, Gold Coast, Damien Hardwick have to win this to get back into the 8. Obviously they have a game or 2 in hand, so of course they're going to be, very wary of that. But losing 3 in a row, especially to top sides, is inexcusable. You've got to start winning games, and they need to bounce back here, and they will. They'll beat the Melbourne Demons by 4 goals, and that's all I have to say on that. They'll get back into the top 8. Hawthorn take on North Melbourne at UTAS. Hawthorn have won their last 8 in Tassie. No matter who they've played. They've played Adelaide, they've played GWS a couple of times. They've played North there. We all know what happened at UTAS last year against North, where we smacked them by 20 goals in a terrific performance to really ease ourselves right into the final series. And, with James Sicily being fit, coming back, with Warple coming back, most likely, at least those 2 names. Cal Shadir likely to come back as well. Again, we don't have any definite, thing that will definitely say that they're coming back. They haven't, obviously, lineups haven't come out, and we don't really have a clue. Obviously, they've got a training session going on at the moment, so, we'll get more detail then. But, I think Hawthorn will win this game quite comfortably. I think North Melbourne, yes, they've been good. They've been competitive, especially against top sides. I mean, they've won 3 of their last 5 with a win, loss, win, loss, win. So they're going to lose. It just makes sense if you follow the format. And, 2 of their wins were against the bottom 2, and then the other one was just an upset against a bad Carlton side. Other than that, Fremantle, they lost. They were very good and very competitive. And in Collingwood, they were actually decent, to be fair. So their last 5 weeks have actually looked quite incredible, North Melbourne. So, I wouldn't be way too confident as a Hawks fan, but I would definitely carry some confidence into this game. Really push for that top 4. Hopefully use this as a percentage booster. And after 3 losses in a row, hopefully you can get 3 wins in a row. And then head into next week against a bottom 4 St Kilda side with even more confidence to really push for that top 4. And knowing that Mitch Lewis and Will Day are on the horizon, as well as probably Jack Scrimshaw or maybe Cam McKenzie for a return, hopefully that just, feeds into our season even more. And hopefully the back end, I'm expecting the back end of the year to be extremely good, and I think we will win 4 of our next 5, maybe even all 5, but I do think Fremantle with their format Optus will just get the better of us. But yeah, give me the Hawks here, give me them by 45 points, in a relatively comfortable game as they push for the top 4. Collingwood, West Coast, don't really need to speak on this game. Collingwood are going to battle them. But I don't think they will torch them. I can either see this being the first 100-point win of the season, or Collingwood kind of use this as a game to, gain some percentage, but they don't really need to kick ass because, A, they've got the second best percentage in the league, just behind the Crows, and the Crows only have a 0.2 better percentage. And B, they're literally 2 games clear of any side currently, with a game in hand as well. So they're going to go 3 games clear. They have nothing to worry about. They don't really need to go in hard for it. They've just got to win, really. And they'll definitely win this game at Marvel. They'll win by 50 points at least. Again, I don't think they'll torch them. They won't, really kick out of first gear, if I'm going to be real. But yeah, they'll win this game comfortably. And yeah, that's about it. Collingwood are looking very scary. Richmond, Adelaide at the MCG. Richmond, well, they've lost their last 5 or 6 or something. And they've, they put up some decent performances, but have also been battered, so they're kind of meh on whether they're going to be, decently competitive or just absolutely tortured. And Adelaide, they've still won 3 of their last 4. Obviously, their loss was to the Hawks, then they had the bye. They'll bounce back here. They've had some impressive wins. Smacked West Coast, smacked Sydney at the SCG, beat Brisbane, lost to Hawthorn and Tassie. But they'll come here, with a rest, just like Richmond, and they'll look good, and they'll smack the shit out of the Tigers by at least 50 points. Again, nothing really much to speak of this game, other than Adelaide need to win just to keep clear of the top 4, keep boosting up percentage, to make it more tougher for teams like Hawthorn and Fremantle, who, yes, will get the wins on the board and will be tied on points, but unfortunately their percentages are not keeping up with Adelaide. So, Adelaide are doing well in that aspect. And they'll actually boost up to 3rd after winning this game, as their percentage is marginally better than Geelong. So, but yeah, Adelaide will win this game comfortably. Fremantle take on St Kilda at Optus. They've won their last 5, the Dockers. They're in the best form of the competition besides Collingwood. They're looking extremely good. They'll make it 6 in a row. St Kilda reek into the bottom 4. They've lost 4 of their last 5. And probably, 7 of their last 9 or something like that. Something ridiculous. I think actually they've lost, they started 3-2, so they've won 2 of their last 9. So there you go. They reek. Fremantle looking good, looking like the top 4 promising side that we all saw. They could even boost above Hawthorn if they push the percentage enough, depending on how well the Hawks do. But yeah, give me Fremantle comfortably here. They'll win this by at least 6 goals. But yeah, they're looking threatening as promised at the start of the season. And they will be tied on points with the likes of Geelong, Adelaide and Hawthorn after this round, where they're already tied on points with Hawthorn and Adelaide in fairness, but, with Geelong as well. So that really says something, as, they've apparently underachieved this season. But no, they've been very well, and they are the best, or one of the best sides behind Collingwood against the top 8 sides. And Brisbane, I think they're tied on wins with Brisbane. They have a 5-2 record against the top 8 sides. They haven't played Hawthorn yet. But, you know, and they've been competitive with the other ones. Like, they barely lost to Collingwood at Optus. You know, the only one they got smacked in was obviously the Geelong game in the first round of the year, but Fremantle are looking good. They'll win this game comfortably. Anyway, to recap, I've got Port Adelaide beating Carlton. I've got Sydney upsetting the Dogs. Hopefully that tip becomes right. I'm either going to look really stupid or it's going to be a genius tip. Probably going to look stupid. Gold Coast will bounce back and beat Melbourne. Hawthorn will make it 3 in a row while battering the Roos and surging for a top 4 place. Collingwood will hold their spot at the top comfortably after winning comfortably over the Eagles. Richmond might put in a fight, but Adelaide will prove too strong. And then Fremantle will get the job done comfortably over the Saints as they push for top 4 also, and they stretch the gap with the rest of the competition. So, you know, those are my tips for my 3 guarantees for you this round. Will be very basic. It's going to be Hawthorn, Collingwood, and Adelaide. Let me switch it to Fremantle to make it somewhat interesting, because St Kilda can have their weird games where they just randomly win. But, you know, those are my 3 guarantees. Hawthorn, Collingwood, and Fremantle. But yeah, those are my round 16 tips. Let me know what you think. Sorry, I seemed a little sluggish. I didn't know what I was saying half of the time in the video. I don't know why. I'm very tired for some reason. Anyway, a 30-hour stream, I should say, will be starting Friday. We'll finally be back streaming, have the weekend off. So yeah, from Friday night all through Saturday, we'll be watching Mitch Lewis's return, the Hawthorn game. Obviously, Collingwood, West Coast. We'll be watching the Friday night game as well on this stream, as well as Melbourne and Gold Coast. So, you know, we're covering all the footy this weekend live on TikTok, so make sure you're there for a 30-hour stream to celebrate 10,000 followers, even though we're at 11.6k now. But, you know, I finally found time, so, you know, that should be good. Anyways, get out of here. And always, up the Hawkers.